Hello, I'm Will and this is Mike with the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And in this video we'll be looking at issue 37 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine, which came with the first parts to start building a Chaos Space Marines Helbrute. So we'll be looking at its build guide and its lore in this issue, before our game where we'll finally be learning the stratagems, secondary objectives and enhancements for the Space Marine and Tyranid combat patrols. Starting out with the magazine, we have the build instructions for the Helbrute. So starting with the torso of the machine, well, you do have 6 different head options to choose from, so you can pick whichever one you like best. Then the legs, which come in 2 parts and go into the feet, and there's some armour plates. Unfortunately, none of that's posable. Likewise, the weapon goes together in a certain way and just goes onto the body in one particular way. The Combat Patrol Helbrute has a Helbrute plasma cannon as its ranged weapon, although the kit does come with other ones, so if you're not following the Combat Patrol loadout, then you can probably figure out how they go together or find the other instructions online. And the same with the melee weapon, it has the Helbrute hammer, but again, there are a couple of other melee weapons you could probably figure out how they go on. We have some lore on the path to glory, which is the way of life that most followers of Chaos, after devoting their lives to the Chaos gods, they're essentially stuck on a path of either continuing to gain power and victory or paying the ultimate price. And as a result, most Chaos followers are completely selfish and only out for improving their own power, maybe with a side helping of revenge against whoever displeased them. Perhaps the ultimate examples, but also possibly some of the most tragic, are the Demon Primarchs, those Primarchs who betrayed the Emperor during the Horus Heresy, who've now ascended to demonhood, like Magnus the Red shown here, Primarch of the Thousand Suns. And some examples of both success and failure on the next page. So from the top left we have a legionary who fell to Chaos during the Horus Heresy and has spent 10,000 years trying to please the gods in hope of reward. A human cultist, more likely to have started worshipping Chaos to escape oppression, but soon ends up on the path to glory, seeking power themselves. A possessed Chaos Space Marine has sought power by allowing a demon to possess his body, giving a great increase of power, but often ending up actually costing the Chaos Marine his soul. In the centre is a demon prince who is pleased the Chaos gods have been rewarded with demonhood, essentially becoming immortal. But then there are some failures, like what's called a torment on the right, which is a cultist who's been hideously mutated by power that's poured into him during a ritual. The bottom left is a chaos spawn, which is the fate of a champion who ultimately fails to please the gods and is just turned into a gibbering mass of flesh. And then a Helbrute, which, as we'll learn more in a minute, is a Chaos Space Marine who has ultimately failed on the path to glory in some ways because they're stuck inside this metal chassis. We continue the short story The Dark Descent, where the Chaos Space Marine leader Archael is leading a squad in search of an artifact. And in this instalment they find what they're looking for, which contains the trapped essence of Archael's former master, the demon prince Aztorath, and Archael wishes to free him, but first has to defeat the Eldari who are protecting it. Finally, we have the collection article for the Helbrute. So Space Marines have vehicles called Dreadnoughts, walkers equipped with powerful weaponry that are piloted by a mortally wounded Space Marine hero who is placed in a life support machine and can continue to serve the chapter. Chaos Space Marines, however, it's more of a living torment for the unfortunate Marine placed in it, since they can no longer really walk the path to glory and are instead entombed in this metal machine, unable to truly experience the joy of battle anymore, and as a result most Helbrutes are completely psychotic and have to be restrained when not in combat. But as usual, you can roll for a background and a name, and then record the deeds when you've built, painted and played with it. And then finally its datasheet, which we'll go over in the next episode when we will use it on the battlefield. But also turn to the inside back cover quickly, because we have a preview of what we're getting in the next 20 issues, the Orcs and Leagues of Votann combat patrols, and you can see all the models there, including the bonus ones, and what our new battle mats will look like that will be coming with issues 41 and 61. But I'll hand you over to Mike now, who will take us through some new rules and then into our game.
So as usual, before we get into today's game, we have some more of the core rules. This time going over deployment abilities. So these are used during deployment or when a unit is set up, either on the battlefield or into reserves. We've got Deep Strike and Infiltrators, which we've seen before. Deep Strike lets you set up a unit in reserves and then it can arrive from the second turn onwards, but has to be more than 9 inches away from enemy models. And Infiltrators lets you set up a unit outside of your deployment zone, but more than 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone and all enemy models. And if it's a case where both armies have infiltrating units, you can actually use them to screen each other off. We also have Scouts. Not sure how many we'll actually get with this collection, but if a unit has Scouts X at the start of the first battle round before the first turn begins, it can make a normal move of up to X as if it were your movement phase, and if that unit is in a dedicated transport, then the dedicated transport makes the move instead. It essentially gains the Scouts rule. But when you make a Scout move, you must end more than 9 inches horizontally from all enemy models, and if both players have units that can Scout, if the player who is going first moves their units first, and this does occur after you know who's going first as well, after you've made the roll-off. And then we also have the leader rule, which we've seen before. I'm not going to go over it completely, but there is some clarification to how allocating attacks works, which will apply to the Dark Apostle. So normally when you have a leader in a bodyguard unit, that becomes an attached unit, and normally you can't allocate wounds to character models in that unit. So in the case of the Dark Apostle, and I think one other case coming up later, the Dark Apostle actually has his Dark Disciples, and the Dark Disciples don't have the character keyword. So if you attach him to a unit of Chaos Legionaries, I think you can technically allocate wounds to the Dark Disciples, even though they're part of the leader unit, because they aren't character models. Although obviously if you kill both Dark Disciples and then all the Marines get killed, the Dark Apostle will then technically have to make battle shock tests because his unit will be below half strength, because it counts as a 3 model unit. And then on the next page we just have a preview of what rules are coming up. So you've got stratagems, particularly the core stratagems, which will go over some of the faction stratagems in this game. Strategic reserves and terrain, which will probably be relevant later on. And also aircraft, which almost certainly won't be relevant. We don't get any aircraft with this collection, but it is nice to have the rules for them because they have their own special set of rules. So with that look at core rules, we can go into some faction-specific rules. So first up we have the Space Marines Combat Patrol rules. This is going over the enhancements, secondary objectives and stratagems that are unique to the Space Marine Combat Patrol. We have actually had these for a while. They came with the data cards, so you probably had a look at them, but this is also explaining how they work, and it gives you a little bit of narrative background for each category. So first up we have enhancements. So each faction gets a pair of enhancements, a default and an optional one, that will apply to the leader of the combat patrol, so in this case the captain in Terminator armour. So this default enhancement is Champion Duelist, which gives his melee weapons precision and lethal hits. So lethal hits means you automatically wound when you roll a critical hit, so a 6, and precision allows you to allocate wounds to a character model in a unit, even if it already has a bodyguard. Or optionally, you can replace that with Oath-Sworn Determination, which improves the objective control characteristic in the captain's unit by 1. In the example, it seems to imply that it only applies to the Terminators he's attached to, but it would apply to him as well, so he does technically get +1 AC. And then we have secondary objectives. Again, each faction will get a default secondary objective and an optional one. So the default secondary objective for the Space Marines is Wrath of the Emperor, where at the end of each phase you score 2 victory points if your captain destroyed one or more enemy models that phase. So in the example, captain shoots a Von Ryan's Leaper and gets 2 VP at the end of the shooting phase, and then in the fight phase kills 2 more and gets another 2 VP, because it doesn't matter how many models you destroyed as long as you destroyed 1. Or optionally, you can replace the default one with Shock Tactics, where at the end of each player's turn, the Space Marine player scores 5 VP if you control one or more objective markers that the opponent controlled at the start of the turn. So this is perhaps the more aggressive option. And then we have the Space Marine specific stratagems, and again each combat patrol will have 3 stratagems that are solely for them. And you can actually see the layout is the same as the command reroll stratagem we've seen, but all of the Space Marine stratagems cost 1 CP. So first up is Gene Wrought Resilience, which is used in the opponent's shooting or fight phase after an enemy unit has selected what it's going to attack. And then it's used on one Adeptus Astartes unit from your army, so essentially any unit in the army, because they all have the Adeptus Astartes keyword. And then until the end of that phase, each time an attack targets your unit, if the strength characteristic of the attack is greater than your unit's toughness, subtract 1 from the rune roll. So you can see in the example, the Von Ryan's Leapers attacking the Infernus Marines in melee. Von Ryan's Leapers are strength 5 versus the toughness 4 of the Infernus Marines, so they will get -1 to their wound rolls and will be wounded on 4s. And then Veteran Instincts, which is used in the fight phase, which targets one Terminator unit from your army that hasn't been selected to fight yet. So that applies to the Terminators plus the 2 characters. And then until the end of the phase, each time a model in the unit makes an attack, you can reroll wound rolls of 1. However, if you're attacking a monster or vehicle, you can reroll the wound roll instead. So obviously it makes them very good against the Wraith Lord and the Psychophage, for example. And then Duty and Honour, which is used at the end of the command phase, where you can target one Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that is within range of an objective you control, and that objective marker remains under your control even if you have no models in range of it. So it's essentially, you secure an objective in the same way that battle line units do, because the Space Marine Combat Patrol has no battle line units. And then again, we have the same thing for all the Tyranids, and again you've got a little narrative background on why these sort of things are available to the Tyranids. So now we have the enhancements for the Tyranids, which apply to the Winged Tyranid Prime. Its default enhancement is the Psychostatic Veil, which gives them the Lone Operative ability and a 4+ invulnerable save. Lone Operative means that he cannot be the target of range attacks from more than 12 inches away, and in addition, each time a melee attack is targeting the Tyranid Prime would give that attack -1 to the hit roll. So it really improves his durability, which I think has been a bit of an issue so far. The alternate enhancement is a Secretion Goad, where once per turn, when a friendly Tyranids unit within 6 of the bearer is selected to shoot or fight, the bearer can use this ability until the end of the phase, improve the armor penetration of characteristics of weapons equipped by models in that friendly unit by 1. Obviously, he counts as a friendly unit within 6, so he can use it on himself, although in this example they seem to think it's got a 12-inch range, but it is only 6 inches, and that's what's printed on the card. So then we have the secondary objectives for the Tyranids, which are actually fairly similar to the Space Marine ones. We have Alpha Xenoform, which is fairly similar to Wrath of the Emperor. You get 4 VP at the end of each phase in which the Winged Tyranid Prime has destroyed one or more enemy models. Obviously, he doesn't have any range attacks, so you can't kill anything in the shooting phase. And then Chitinous Tide, where at the end of your turn you score 5 VP if you control one or more objective markers that are within 6 inches of your opponent's deployment zone. So perhaps slightly easier to score than the Space Marine version, but again it does promote being really aggressive. And then the Tyranid Stratagems, again, these all cost 1 CP. We have Hyper Reactive, which is used in your opponent's shooting or fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. And it targets 1 Tyranid infantry unit, so that's everything except the Psychophage, and the enemy gets -1 to their hit rolls until the end of the entire phase. Voracious Assault, which is used in your shooting or fight phase and targets 1 Tyranid's unit. It gives that unit reroll hit rolls as long as it attacks the closest eligible target. And then Teeming Broods, which is used in the reinforcement step of the movement phase. So the reinforcement step is after all of your normal moves have been done. You can target 1 term against unit from your army, even if that unit has been destroyed. If your unit has not been destroyed, if the unit hasn't been destroyed, you can return up to D6 destroyed models to it. Otherwise, you add a new unit to your army, identical to the destroyed unit, in strategic reserves containing 2d6 models. We don't know about strategic reserves yet, so you won't be able to use that part of the rule just yet, but you can use it to bring back termagants, which isn't too bad because they're OC2 each and you get loads of them. So today's game will be a game of Architect Recovery of Tyranids versus Space Marines, because I don't think we've had that combination yet, and we can try out our new stratagems, enhancements and secondary objectives. So here we are deployed for Architect Recovery. We've got objectives 1, 2 and 3 along the diagonal, so they'll be the ones that could potentially disappear. 4 in the top right, 5 in the bottom left. Looking at my deployment, I was the defender, so I had to deploy first. I've got the Von Ryan's Leapers infiltrating out behind some barrels, 2 units of termagants in the middle, roughly, with the Tyranid Prime between them for Synapse, and the Psychophage, and then the Barb Gaunts in the cover in the bottom right corner. We're going for the default objective and enhancement, so the enhancement is the Psychostatic Veil for the Tyranid Prime, giving him Lone Operative, a 4+ invulnerable save, and -1 to be hit in melee. And then the objective is Alpha Xenoform, where you get 4 VP at the end of a phase in which he destroys an enemy model. Looking at the Space Marine deployment.
I didn't put anything in Deep Strike, and I didn't attach either of the characters to the Terminators because I want as many units as possible running around. We've got the Librarian on the right of your picture near Objective 1, the Infernus Marines in the middle with the Captain, and then the Terminators who are within 3 inches of Objective 5, so I can use my new stratagem to secure it. And I've also gone for the default enhancement and secondary objective, so the Captain has the precision and lethal hits on his melee weapons with Champion Duelist, and I've got the Wrath of the Emperor secondary to give you more victory points when he kills stuff.
So now we're just rolling off to see who goes first. I'm going first, so we're into Tyranids turn 1. My turn is basically all just movement. Up at the top, those termagants are going to rearrange themselves so that the Terminators won't be able to see them so well. The Barb Gaunts advance, roll a 6, so I'm going to try and get them towards the middle, where the Tyranid Prime is currently, because that gives them a better view of the entire battlefield. The other unit of termagants advance to get down to Objective 3, Von Ryan Leapers is going to stay where they are, and the Psychophage advance to contest Objective 2, and I had to spend a command point to re-roll the Psychophage's advance from a 1 into a 5. And the Tyranid Prime just moving up provides synapse to the 2 units that need it in the lower part of the battlefield. But that's actually going to be it for my turn. On to the Space Marine turn.
In my command phase I put Oath of Moment on the Psychophage because it's the only real target I have for most of my army, and I also spent a command point to secure Objective 5, which the Terminators were on at the end of my command phase, so that's now still mine even though they've moved away. Then everybody's just moved forward through that gap there with the Captain leading, except the Librarian who's going to stay back and stay on Objective 1, mainly so that obviously I want to stay on the objective but are staying back so the Tyranid Prime will have quite a long charge to try and get to him. Then we'll do some shooting, and I'll start with the Captain. He's going to shoot the termagants behind the Psychophage. You can just about see one of them, and if he kills one, I get some victory points. So it'll be 2 shots hitting on 2s, 2 hits, wounding on 3s. They both wound. They will get cover though, because there's a terrain piece in the way.
2 4+ saves. I failed 1, but you know what? It is worth 2 victory points. I'll re-roll that into a fail. So that will be a dead termagant, and also 2 VP at the end of this phase for the Space Marines.
All of the Infernus Marines are in range of the Psychophage, we'll do them next. 5d6 automatic hits. 16 hits, wounding on 5s. Well, 6.
6 3+ saves from the Psychophage. Ugh, failed 4. It's going to have to make some feel no pains on 5s. Ignored 1, so it takes 3 damage and it's down to 7.
We'll do the Terminators next, also into the Psychophage. Assault Cannon hits on 2s because they're targeting the Oath of Moment target. And I can re-roll because of the Oath of Moment. So we get 5 hits, and we're winning on 5, 6 is our devastating wounds. We got 2 normal wounds and a devastating wound going through.
So 3+ saves for the normal wounds, save both, 5+ feel no pain for the devastating. Don't ignore it, it's down to 6.
And then 12 Stormbolt shots, also on 2s re-rolling. Oh. They all hit, wounding on 6s. Wow, 6 wounds.
Blimey. 6 3+ saves. Now we only fell 1 this time. With a feel no pain. Don't ignore it, it's down to 5.
Finally, the Librarian will shoot it as well, and he will use the Focus Witchfire Smite. Do that, it gets d6 shots. 3, hitting on 3s re-rolling. 2 hits. 5s to wound. 1 at -2.
5+ armour. Made it.
And hazardous roll. Oh, he just about manages to not hurt himself, and then he has 2 Stormbolt shots, which both hit and don't wound. That brings us to the charge phase. The captain will declare a charge on the Psychophage while it is, though, the moment target, because he gets a free reroll from his own ability. And I do now have those 2 victory points, of course, being the end of the shooting phase, and his charge roll is an 8. No, he needed a 9, but he gets the free reroll from his ability. No. But that will be the end of my turn.
And we'll be on to Tyranids turn 2. I will score 15 victory points for holding 3 objectives. That's all that happens in my command phase. In my movement phase, the Ryan Sleepers and the Psychophage are going to stay where they are, while the Termagants at the top are going to advance. They only got 1 though, unfortunately. I'll stay with my command points so they can start heading towards objective 1, with the Tyranid Prime moving up behind the pink cargo container. Bulgot's moving behind the cover where the Tyranid Prime was, and the unit Termagants at the bottom just rearranging so they're all in range of the Infernus Marines. In the shooting phase, I'll start with the Barb Gaunts. We'll put one of them shooting at the Terminators, and then the other 4 will shoot at the Infernus Marines.
And I'll spend a command point for Gene-wrought Resilience on the Infernus Marines when they're selected as a target, so any attacks for the rest of the phase that have a higher strength than their toughness will be -1 to wound. As you can be all of the Tyranid shooting.
So I'll do the one shooting at the Terminators. He gets 6 shots because there's 5 men in the unit. These hit on 4s. So it's 3 hits, that's really the important thing, because I want to apply the debuff to them, not the Infernus Marines. 3 hits, wounding on 4s. Well, he got a wound.
2+ save. Oh, we failed.
Oh,
Put
yeah.
the wound on the Sergeant.
4d6 plus 4 shots on the Infernus Marines. 16 shots, hitting on 4s. We've got 9 hits, wounding on 4s now. Normally it would be 3s, but with that Gene-wrought Resilience, bringing it down. Only 3 wounds.
Yeah, that actually made a big difference, all those 3s.
Would have been 8 otherwise.
And then we have 3+ saves, which we made.
I'll do the 9 Termagants who are all just in range. 9 shots on 4s, getting 4 hits and wounding on 4s. To make a difference again, it's only 2 wounds.
3s, made them.
And then I'll do the Psychophage's Psychoclastic Torrent. And then as well, d6 automatic hits, 2. Again, wounding on 4s. Oh, I'm wounded this time, and these are AP -1.
And ignores cover, so we'll be on 4s. Failed 1, just 1 damage.
Well, that's going to be it. Nothing else in range. I'm going to apply the Barb Gaunt's debuff to the Terminators to slow them down. Tyranid Prime can't charge from where he is, and I'm not going to charge the Psychophage. So we'll be on to Space Marines turn 2.
I put Oath Moment on the Psychophage again, because I need to get rid of it, and I also spent another command point to secure Objective 1. And then I moved the Librarian away from there, because that means that if the Tyranid Prime wants to take it away from me, it has to stand on the objective and be in the open, doing nothing. The Infernus Marines will stay in their cover for now, because they don't really have anywhere else to go, because the Terminators are in the way, because they're suppressed, so they can only move 3 inches. The Captain's moved 5 towards the middle. Start the shooting phase with the Captain. He'll shoot the Termagants on the other side of the Psychophage again, so I can try and get those 2 victory points. He's in range with the 4 shots now, though. 1 of which missed, and 3s to wound 2. There will be some in cover.
Yeah, so 4+ saves again. Failed both. I'm not going to bother re-rolling either.
Infernus Marines only have 1 target, which is the Psychophage. So another 5d6 shots. Oh, that's quite good. 22 hits, wounding on 5. That's 8 wounds.
8 3+ saves. Failed 2. 5+ feel no pain. Ignored 1. It's down to 4.
Hopefully the Captain will be able to do something to the Psychophage in melee, so we're going to stop shooting at that for now. At least with the Terminators, they're going to target the Termagants over on the far side of the board, because I'd like to get rid of some of them.
Yeah, and I'm going to spend a CP for Hyper-Reactive to give the Terminators -1 to hit.
So I'll do the Assault Cannon. We're only hitting on 4s, therefore, because they're not the Oath Moment target. Oh, that helps. Only 2 hits, wounding on 2s. Yep.
Got some in cover with 4+ saves. Made 1, so 1 dead.
And 4 Stormbolts on 4s. 3 hits, 3s to wound, just 1.
4+ save, made it.
Finally, the Librarian. He's going to put a Focus Witchfire Smite into the Barb Gaunts, and his Stormbolter as well, I suppose. D6 Smite, 6.
Oh dear.
On 3s, only 3 hits. And 3s, 2 wounds, -2, well, 2 are on the cover, I suppose.
So that takes him down to a 5+ save. Oh, I made 1.
D3 damage. Oh, it kills one.
Yeah, one dead.
And then the hazardous roll, just do that now. He's fine. And 2 Stormbolter shots, so they both miss. Then we have the charge phase. The captain will charge the Psychophage. He's not hindered, so he gets whatever I roll, which is an 8, which will be enough. So the captain rolls enough to get there, and then I'll do the Terminators. But they do have -2 to this roll because they are suppressed. 7 might actually be enough, though. So that is enough, and that gets the Terminators to there. I'm going to pick the Terminators to fight first. The captain will get 2 victory points if he gets the kill, but I don't know if he can necessarily kill it in 1 round of attacks himself, so I think it's more important that we just kill it and use the Terminators. So we have 12 attacks with Power Fists, hitting on 2s re-rolling. 11 hits, wounding on 5s. 5 wounds is pretty good.
5+ armor saves. I didn't make any, so there's going to be a lot of feeling no pain. We did ignore 4, but 6 is enough to kill it.
It does have Deadly Demise.
Yeah, on a 6? No.
And they will consolidate because they can get into range of the Termagants by doing so. It stops them.
Termagants powered in attack but didn't get any wounds, so no point showing it. So we'll be on to Tyranids turn 3. And also at the start of this battle round, we roll to see which objective goes where, and as the defender, I roll to see which one it is. So, rolling a d3, and it's objective 3, which does not work in my favour. So I gain 10 victory points, and I'm actually going to spend a command point for Teeming Broods on the Termagants at the bottom, getting d6 back for 4. I only have 3 dead, but they're all back up to full. In my movement phase, down at the bottom, von Ryan's Leapers advance to get around the terrain, heading towards Objective 5. Termagants are going to stay in combat. They might all get minced in this combat phase, but as long as one of them lives, the Terminators won't be able to move. Barb Gaunts staying where they are. Tyranid Primers come down to try and nom some Infernus Marines, while the Termagants at the top advance to get towards Objective 1. And then we'll go on to the shooting phase, where they can shoot with the Barb Gaunts. One of them will shoot at the captain to try and disrupt him, and then the other ones will shoot at the Infernus Marines.
And I'll use Gene-Wrought Resilience again on the Infernus Marines, just to try and reduce a bit of damage.
So, shooting at the captain, we got 4 shots, hits on a 3. Well, we got a hit, that's all I need, and it didn't wound. And then 3d6 plus 3 on the Infernus Marines. Oof. 18 shots on 3s, 16 hits. We're only wounded on 4s though. 10 wounds out of all of that.
So 3s. Oh, we only failed 1, and we lose the wounded wounding.
So the captain is disrupted at the very least, and we've got the Termagants at the top. 2 of them can see the Infernus Marines, might as well shoot at them. And then I think I've got 7 left who can see the captain. There are a few hits on the captain, but no wounds overall. So we're on to the charge phase, where the Tyranid Prime will charge the Infernus Marines. And he gets an 8, that's easy enough. So Tyranid Prime gets in, he's going to go like that to be as far away from the captain as possible, and I don't want to bring in the Librarian.
But I will use a CP for Gene-Wrought Resilience again, so that he'll be winning them on 4s.
Yeah. So he's got 6 attacks on 2s, 3 hits, wounding on 4s. I got a wound, -1.
So I do need to make a 4+ save. Oh, I failed. So he does actually kill 1.
Yeah, and that will get me 4 victory points at the end of the phase.
Then it's non-charging units to fight, so I'll pick the Terminators. I can get 4 of them into range of the Termagants, including the Sergeant, because he's got slightly more attacks.
Yeah, and I'm going to spend a CP for Hyperreactive to get the Terminators -1 to hit.
So 9 Power Fists sitting on 4s. 5 hits, wounding on 2s, so they crush 5.
Yep.
The Sergeant needs to put in a bit of work. He missed entirely. Nothing better than a 3.
Termagants fought back and actually got 3 wounds, so you never know.
2s. Oh, we're fine. Lastly, I've got my Infernus Marines, and they get 9 attacks on the Tyranid Prime, but they're hitting on 4s because his enhancement makes him -1 to hit. Not a great roll anyway, but so only 3 hits and no wounds.
Yeah, and then at the end of the fight phase, I get 4 victory points for killing an Infernus Marine in melee with the Tyranid Prime. And we'll be on to Space Marines turn 3.
Put over the moment on the Tyranid Prime, see if the Librarian can deal with him. The Infernus Marines fell back away from him to stay nearish Objective 1. I also spent a command point to secure Objective 2. The Terminators will stay in melee because it isn't really a better thing for them to do. Falling back's not going to help very much. And the Captain is moving his mighty 3 inches towards the Barb Gaunts, so if he can get rid of them, then at least I can go and take Objective 4. Only got 2 units to shoot. The Captain's going to shoot the Termagants up near the top of the board, try and get more victory points. 4 shots on 2s. And 3s. Only 2 wounds.
I think there are a couple in cover. 4+ saves. They both.
And then the Librarian will shoot everything at the Tyranid Prime. I suppose we will use Focus Witchfire again. So d6 shots from that. 5. He's not -1 to hit with shooting, and he's not stealth or anything, so I will be hitting on 3s re-rolling. Well, they all hit. 3s to wound, strength 6. Yeah. 1.
4+ invulnerable save. Saved.
And he didn't get any wounds with his Stormbolter, so in the charge phase I'll have to charge it. What he did.
Yeah, he's in with the 6.
And the captain will go charge on the barb-claws. I think he's going to need about a 7, taking into account the -2, but obviously gets a free reroll. Well, he rolls an 8. So the librarian obviously is just into the Tyranid Prime, and the captain will charge to there with his mighty 6 inches. And I'll just do him first, I suppose. 6 attacks on 2s. They all hit, and they wound on 3s. 4 wounds. And I didn't roll any 6s to hit, so no lethal hits. Forgot to mention it.
So 4 6+ saves for the barb-claws. And they're all gone.
And the librarian has 4 attacks that will be hitting on 4s because of the -1, but with Oath of Moment, so I can re-roll. Oh, only 2 hits. Wounding on 3s. Just 1.
With a 4+ invulnerable. Failed.
D3 damage, 1.
Right, I actually picked the Termagants to go just before they get smushed, but they didn't do anything.
Then the Terminators can fight.
Yeah, and I think I'll spend my CP for Hyper-Reactive again to give the -1 to hit.
Can't get all the Terminators in now though, so we'll have 12 Power Fist attack on 4s. And 2s. Oh, 3 1s, so only 3 dead so far.
2 left.
Sergeant needs to do the work. Well, at least he hit twice this time. 3s to wound though. No, he failed. He only kills 1.
That'll be it for Space Marine's turn 3. And then we'll be on to Battle Round 4 and Tyranid's turn 4. So Objective 3 has gone away, meaning I'm only going to get 5 victory points this turn.
And I need to roll to see which the next one goes away. So 1, 2, or 3, Objective 1, 4, 5, 6 is Objective 2. It's the middle one, Objective 2.
I also need to make a Battleshock test for my lone Termagant. I think they're Leadership 8, so he failed. So in my turn, the Tyranid Prime is going to fall back to take over Objective 5. The Bomber and Zeep is actually going to go towards Objective 2 to deny the Space Marine some victory points. The Termagants at the top are going to go and take control of Objective 1. And I'm probably going to stay there for the entire game, to be honest, because it's worth lots at the end of the game. And incidentally, this lone Termagant is going to stay in combat with the Terminators just to tie them up. My only shooting is going to be the Termagants shooting at the Infernus Marines. Thought about spending a CP for Voracious Assault, but I think I want to save it for something else.
But I will spend my CP for Genewalt Resilience, because I don't want to lose any Infernus Marines, basically.
So 9 shots on 4. 4 hits, we're only on 4s. Nothing. But in the charge phase, I think I'm going to charge with those Termagants. I will need them something to tie up the Infernus Marines so they can't shoot in. It's going to have to be them. But, their charge roll is a 6, which I think will be enough. So 6 is enough to get the one who was in front directly into them, and then after parleying in I can get 6 of them in range. 6 attacks, hitting on 4s. Well, we got 3 and 5s. 2 wounds.
2 saves. We're fine. Then I'll pick the Terminators, and then we can just pile in and they all get to attack this poor Termagant. And I'll do the Sergeant. There, they all hit, and he kills it. And then the Terminators can consolidate back towards Objective 2, and they do get 3 of themselves on it, so the Leapers won't be enough to contest that anymore, since I secured it. And then I've got my 3 Infernus Marines.
Yeah, I'm going to use my CP left for Hyperreactive.
And we'll have 9 attacks hitting on 3s, 4s. Made a difference, we only got 3 hits. They did wound though.
5+ armour. Made 2. 1 dead Termagant. So that will be it. But at the end of my turn, they'll lose control of Objective 1 and 5. As we head into Space Marine turn 4.
We only gained 5, but it is 5 I wouldn't have got if the Terminators hadn't been able to keep on hold of Objective 2, so I guess I will take it. And I put Oath of Moment on the Von Ryan's Leapers. The Terminators have moved across in front of them. Captain's gone over into the corner and he had to advance to get onto Objective 4, but that's probably just going to be his job for the rest of the game. The Infernus Marines will stay in melee with the Termagants, so I can hold them in place, and the Librarian has moved towards the Tyranid Prime, so I can try and tie him up and stop him going to do something else that's more annoying. And then I'll start with the 3 pistols from the Infernus Marines, I suppose. 3s, and 3s. 3 wounds.
5+ armour. Made 2.
And the Terminators are going to shoot everything at the Leapers. Assault Cannon, oh, we do have stealth, but they get +1, so we're back to 3s to hit. Rolling. 4 hits, 3s to wound, and no devastating.
4+ armour. Made 1 field roll.
And 16 Storm Bolters, also on 3s re-rolling. With only 1 miss. 5s to wound. That's 8 wounds.
8 4+ saves from the Leapers. That's 1 dead, 2 dead, and 1 wounded.
Then the Librarian will put his Storm Bolter on that Leaper, see if we can take it out. It's 1 wound. Shame the Captain can't shoot, actually. And then he'll do Smite, but not the focus one this time, on the Tyranid Prime. Storm Bolter, 4s, but re-rolling. Oh, still only 2. And 5s. Away, wound.
4+. Saved.
And Smite gets 6 shots on 3s. It's not -1 to hit with shooting. No. Only 3 hits. 4s to wound. 1.
4+ vulnerable. Saved.
We'll have the Librarian charge the Tyranid Prime. He's in with a 6.
Yep.
And then the Terminators will charge the Leaper. Oh, they're in. The Terminator's charging like that, but then the Leaper gets to fight first.
No, 6 attacks from the Leaper on 3s. 5. Wounding on 4s. 2 wounds at -1.
3s. Sergeant takes another wound. Terminators get to go, or Power Fists are all hitting on 2s. Re-rolling. And wounding on 3s. Oh, that's not great, but that's still going to be 5 wounds.
So we 5, 6 plus invulnerables? Yeah.
Then I've got the Librarian. I'll actually spend a command point on Veteran Instincts, because he does have the Terminator keyword, so he can reroll wound rolls of 1. We're still hitting on 4s, though. Only 2 hits. And it'd be wounding on 3s, but re-rolling 1s. Oh, I didn't roll. I just rolled 2 wounds.
2, 4 plus invulnerables. Failed both? Yeah, re-roll 1. Into a save.
So only 1d3 damage, which is 2.
I'll pick the termagants to go before they get smushed. We got a wound.
Saved. Then the Infernus Marines. 7 hits and 6 wounds.
6 5s. Made 2, so I'll lose 4. Just the Tyranid Prime left. 6 attacks on 2s. They all hit. And wounding on 3s. 5 wounds at -1.
3s to save. I'll get them all in the box. We failed 1. Failed 1. 2 wounds.
Yeah, so the Librarian lives. And that's the end of the turn, so we're into Tyranid's turn 5. In my turn, the only really relevant thing is if the termagants manage to pass their Battleshock test, because if I don't, I won't gain any victory points, and then we can just call it there. So Leadership 8. So they passed, which means I will use Teeming Broods on them in the movement phase to give them d6 for 3 more. Realistically, I think the Terminators and the Infernus Marines will just smush them by the end, so even with 6 of them. And the Tyranid Prime might kill the Librarian, and I think the Space Marines will easily take control of Objective 1 by the end of it.
Yeah, and that'll give me the 10 for holding that one remaining objective at the end of the game.
Yeah, so that'll be a Space Marine victory. We'll recap that for you now. So that was the game for issue 37 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine. How do you think that went?
Well, obviously reasonably well.
I only killed 2 Space Marines, I think, so...
Yeah, I made quite a lot of armour saves, but I think having the stratagems really helped the weaknesses of the Space Marine Combat Patrol.
Yeah, just being able to secure objectives so you can move off them, so you're not stuck with a unit hiding at the back for the entire game.
Yeah, even better against an army that is more of a shooting army that doesn't have so many fast things, because then you can do the Space Marine thing where you advance inexorably across the board and bash everything to death with the Terminators, and if they don't have the fast thing, they can't go and steal objectives from you.
It also means that if you bring in the Terminators with Deep Strike, they can take an objective and then move off it, and they're not just stuck defending that spot.
We didn't actually need to use the re-rolling wounds against vehicles and monsters, but obviously that gives you a way of dealing with a vehicle or a monster with the Terminators in melee. You do have to get them into melee to use it, but once they do, 5 to wound re-rolling with that many attacks is actually quite good. And then Gene Wrought Resilience is just a little bit more survivability, which, particularly on the Infernus Marines, is quite handy, because they're the unit you need to be shooting at light infantry and things, and actually they do quite a lot of damage to the psychophage, but if too many of them die before that happens, then they're not that effective as we've seen. It is even useful on Terminators, to be honest, because they're toughness 5 and really good save, but there are bigger strength weapons out there than Tyranid Combat Patrol has.
Yeah, I think the issue the Space Marines had against the Tyranids was they were just so heavily outnumbered and out-OC'd, and when you took losses, you couldn't really contest enough objectives. But on the other hand, I totally misplayed the Leapers. I probably should have sent them out a turn earlier, or if I had kept them back like I did, I either should have fallen back that Termagant that was Battleshock, so that you couldn't fight and pile back into Objective 2, in which case the Leapers would have denied you it, or I should have just assumed you were going to keep control of it and then gone after the Librarian and got the Leapers on that side of the board.
Yes, although I think I should never have piled into those Termagants in the first place, because they just became a bit of a tar pit. The -1 to hit stratagem, they're actually quite hard to get rid of, even with the Terminators in melee.
Although you didn't have both the moment on them at all, so...
It was really striking, actually, the difference between having -1 to hit, either with stealth, or with that, or with the Tyranid Prime's enhancement, and not having over the moment versus the thing you had over the moment on. It really shows that the Space Marines faction rule does really help them kill things, but only one thing at a time.
I think Teeming Broods, we don't know about strategic reserves, but being able to bring back a full unit, well, you could potentially get a 12-man unit of Termagants if you had enough models for it, and being in strategic reserves does make them quite flexible. It is quite handy for keeping them around because they have so much OC. And Voracious Assault re-rolling hits. You wouldn't think it'd be so helpful on the Tyranid Prime, but he does tend to roll 1s a lot. Obviously, you really want to use it on the Psychophage or the Von Ryan's Leapers. Really, I think the Barb Gaunts get so many shots that you don't really need to re-roll hits, and the Gaunts are just, their damage is so minimal, it's not going to benefit you. Yeah, and I think the enhancement for the Tyranid Prime really helps his durability, because one weakness is that he doesn't have an invulnerable save built in, and Lone Operative stops him getting picked off as well. And being -1 to hit in melee as well, it certainly helps him bully characters like the Librarian, who aren't melee specialists. He probably would still struggle with the Captain, but still.
Whereas the Captain's enhancement is not actually all that useful against the Tyranids because they don't have any units that are leaders, but certainly against the Eldari, being able to pick out the Farseer from amongst the Guardians will be very handy. Again, you do have to get into melee to do that, which against the Eldari is a little bit trickier. Lethal hits on melee attacks is nice, I suppose.
Well, it would certainly help him against big things. His strength isn't actually that high. Yeah, and probably would have been better for me to use other secondary objective. I think that would have gotten me at least 5 victory points, which is more than I got for the Tyranid Prime, but I wasn't that aggressive for the Tyranid Prime. No, I think he would actually struggle to get the 4 victory points against Space Marines, just because they're going to have a 4+ save. Against other armies, I think it's definitely going to be much easier for him to get it.
Yeah, like the Guardians, for example. Likewise, the Captain's one. It does give you quite a lot of points if you can maximise it, and shooting at termagants is a good way to do that, and getting into melee with things. But you do have to keep him moving and engaged with things to do that. The Stormbolter helps because it has a decent range and quite a lot of shots in close range. Whereas the optional secondary is probably always useful because the way you're going to play Space Marines is going to be advancing forward to take objectives anyway.
Yeah, it will depend on your playstyle, but you could potentially use that to offset any victory points you lose from no longer holding objectives. You just sort of not worry about holding as many objectives as possible and just rely on taking them from the opponent instead. It requires you to be very aggressive.
Well, and that's kind of what I did in this game. We effectively swapped home objectives at one point.
Yeah, we'll obviously try our optional things out in later games. And this is almost a proper game of Combat Patrol. We're just missing the core stratagems, which we'll get very soon. But otherwise, I don't think there's too much more to say about this game or this issue. So as always, if you like this content, do like and subscribe. And if you have any comments how you've been getting on with the collection, or if you've been playing games of Combat Patrol, let us know how you get on. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.